Good morning. We made it. Today is May 1st, last full month of school. Today we're going to talk about the standard form of a linear equation. Not any notes to fill in, but I've made it available as a handout if you want to write notes alongside of what I'm doing. This is pretty much a pro forma lesson. That means everything's already printed in. I'm going to go through the steps that are taken. I'm not going to actually write out things. So just please pay attention when you do the homework and the exit slip. So standard form, we're up here, right here. Standard form is just another way to write a linear equation along with slope-intercept form, which we've already done. That's the number one thing. And point-slope form, which we will do next. Standard form looks like this. Ax plus by equals c. When you notice that the a, the b, and the c are constants, these will always just be numbers. They can be decimals, they could be fractions to begin with, but they will be the numbers. X and y will always remain as variables. If you notice that the constants, remember this, that the constants a, b, and c must be integers. A must be positive. So an example of a line in standard form would look like this. You've got 4x plus 7y equals 12. You'll notice that the 4, the 7, and the 12 are all whole numbers and that the 4 is positive. Okay? So now I'll throw you for a loop. The first problem we're going to do doesn't look anything like that, but we're going to learn about putting things in proper standard form. And when it's in proper standard form, it meets all of these criteria. Okay? So it may not start off looking right, but I'm going to teach you how to fix it, just like I did back in the beginning of the year. So we're going to turn negative 2/3 x minus 5/2 y equals 4 into standard form. So the first thing we've got to do is get rid of fractions. Fractions are not integers. And we get rid of the fractions by multiplying each of those every term. And then in this particular case, you've got 3 terms. So each one of them has to be multiplied by the same thing. We're going to multiply by a least common multiple. That is a number that when I multiply the fractions by it, we'll get rid of the fractions and turn them into integers. The least common multiple of 2 and 3 is 6. That's the smallest number that I can multiply both of those numbers by and get an integer. So if you look at the example, so here's where we start right here. And then we're going to multiply everything by 6. So we've got 6 times this half and then 6 times the other side. So when I multiply 6 times negative 2/3, I get negative 4 because 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. Negative 12 divided by 3 is negative 4. 6 times negative 5/2 becomes 30/2, which is negative 15. And 6 times 4 is 24. Okay, so good, we got rid of the fractions. However, we're still left with that negative in front of the 4, which is representing the a. And it can't be because it must be positive. Since our a term is negative, we're going to multiply everything by negative 1 to make it positive. So I'm going to start with my negative. I've gone from here to here. I'm going to multiply everything by negative 1, and I'm going to get 4x plus 15y equals negative 24. Now it's in standard form. Okay, that's all we're looking at, is putting it into standard form. Now, why do we use this? In my opinion, it's the least important of the 3 different forms of linear equations. But one thing it's very good at is finding the x and the y intercepts of a line. And as we know, once we have 2 points, we can draw a line. So it serves a very good function in terms of having to do graphing. So the x-intercept occurs when y equals 0, and the y-intercept occurs when x equals 0. So to find these, you just need to plug in x equals 0 and solve for y, and then plug in y equals 0 and solve for x. as I taught you back at the beginning of the year, if you have your pencil, you can just cover up the x and the y to find the other. But I'm going to show you how to do it by actually substituting the x and then the y with 0. Okay, so I'm going to start with this equation. 2x plus 5y equals 30. So let's start by finding the x-intercept. To find this, we set y to equal 0. So I'm going to go into my equation, 2x plus 5y equals 30, and I'm going to substitute that y right here with the 0. So I now have 2x plus 5 times 0 equals 30. Well, as we all know, 0 times anything gives us 0. So I'm left with 2x equals 30. 2 divided by 2 is 1, leaves me with 1x. 30 divided by 2 leaves me 15. This is my x-intercept. Now if I wrote this point as a coordinate, it would look like this. Okay? So the x-intercept is 15, 0. Next, to find the y-intercept, we set x to 0. So we do the same thing. We're going to substitute the x here with 0, and then 5y equals 30. 2 times 0 is 0, which leaves me with 5y equals 0. Divide both sides by 5, and I'm left with y equals 6, which gives me the point 0, 6. So if I look at this graph, I am not graphing a point. Let's go back here again. I've got an x is, and this is the y, and in this one I'll rewrite it 0, 6 is x and y. My point is not 15, 6, okay? So I'm graphing the 15, 0 here, and I'm graphing the 0, 6 here. And now I've got 2 points. I draw a line. I've created a graph of those two. Now, we're not going to do any graphing today with homework. I'm merely going to give you some expressions that are in some sort of standard form, either proper or not, and have you identify for me which of those is in proper standard form, and then perform a little magic. You are going to identify what the x-intercept would be and the y-intercept would be. We'll do graphing when you get into IXL. Okay, so I hope this makes sense to you. This is a review of work that we've already done. For some of you, it won't take much to regenerate all of that information. For others, it may be more of a struggle. If it is, please come to tutorial. I'm getting mighty lonely sitting there every day waiting for people to come in. So have a great rest of your day. Talk to you soon.